Chapter 2 Simon's First Visit. Suddenly, Simon felt himself falling. It went on and didn't feel like it would stop. He opened his eyes, and he realized he had been dreaming. But when he looked around, he couldn't see the posters on his wall, and he wasn't in his bunk bed with Kenny snoring below on the bottom bunk. Where was he? The ground beneath him felt like leaves and dirt. He was in a dark space, but he could see what looked like a wall. It looked like tree trunks stuck together. He reached out and put his hand on the wall. It felt smooth. In the distance there was a dim light moving gently from side to side. As he looked, it seemed to be getting closer and closer. When the light was close enough, he saw that it was a bizarre creature. It looked like a toad with a huge belly and tiny little wings that kept it hovering in the air. Its belly was what was illuminating everything. He could just about see he was in a circle of trees, so close together that they made an impenetrable wall. The wings of the creature buzzed, and it swung from side to side, the tiny wings straining under the weight. It certainly didn't look like it was meant for flying. Where did it come from? Simon wondered. "Hello?" he called out, his voice echoing in the chamber. "Hello?" he called out again. The flying toad-like creature got startled and flew back from where it had come from. Simon was all alone in the dark again. He didn't like the dark. He waited quietly for a few moments, listening to see if he could hear anything. "You mustn't be seen here," came a voice from the darkness. "Who's that?" Simon asked, unable to see anything. "I'm down here," the voice replied, with a hint of irritation. "Come on, we best get going." Simon looked down and could see bright green lights. They looked like ears. He looked closer and realized that they were ears, standing straight up in the air. "What are you staring at?" the ears asked, sounding even more annoyed. What? Simon started to ask. "They're my ears, you silly creature," the voice snapped. "Now let's get going. We must get you out of sight before you get spotted. Come on, this way." The two fluorescent green ears began swaying from side to side as they moved away from him. Simon decided to follow, thinking he didn't have anything to lose. From what he could make out, if there was any trouble, he was certainly bigger than whatever the two green ears belonged to. Anyway, he was just glad that he wasn't alone in the dark anymore. They walked a little way, and then suddenly the ears disappeared. "Where are you?" Simon asked, still unable to see anything apart from silhouettes and shadows. The ears reappeared. "I'm right here. You'll need to bend down and crawl through this gap. Come on." Simon crouched down to his knees and put his hands out, feeling for what might be ahead of him. He could feel a small hole in one of the tree trunks that seemed just about big enough for him to squeeze through. He lay on the ground and squirmed into the hole. "That's right! Wriggle like a worm!" the voice called out from somewhere ahead. The ground started to shake, with a giant thud, thud of slow footsteps approaching. "Quick! You'll have to hurry!" shouted the voice. Simon wriggled and squirmed until his whole body had gone through the hole. Then he felt the ground start to slope downward. He started sliding. "Ah!" he yelped as he slid down and round, suddenly landing on the ground, covered in wood chippings. Small lights on the wall lit the space, and it looked as though the walls were solid wood. Were they inside a tree? He wondered. A purple fur ball of a creature with rather large pointy ears that stood right up on end appeared. "Glad you could join us," the same voice from the darkness said sarcastically. "You're purple," Simon said, slightly confused by everything. "And actually, it's magenta," the creature corrected, putting his three-fingered hand on his white belly. "You know, it's rude to stare." I'm sorry," Simon apologized with a slight stutter, shaking his head and trying to come to grips with where he was and what was happening. "It's just that your ears... were they green before?" He looked around at the wall again. "Where are we?" "Yes, my ears. I know, they are rather prominent. They glow in the dark, which is the same for all of us Bombles. As for where we are, we're safe for now. the creature replied, lowering his voice. But we must be quiet, so as to make sure those up there, he said, pointing to the ceiling, don't find us. Who's up there? Simon asked. Let's not worry about that at the moment. The who's there and the where's here. I'm sure you just need to sit down and have something to eat and drink. Well, I am feeling a little hungry, Simon said, the same as most 12-year-old boys, forever hungry. Oh yes, how rude of both of us. We haven't been properly introduced, the magenta furball pronounced, leading up to the pageantry of pleasantries and introductions. I am Dimitri, he said with a flourish. I'm Simon. Nice to meet you, Dimitri, Simon said, extending his hand. Dimitri's small hand reached out and grabbed Simon's little finger. He was, after all, a great deal smaller than Simon. Now let's get you somewhere with a bit more space, and we'll find some food for you, Dimitri said, as he turned and began walking towards the open doorway into what looked like a long corridor filled with strings of fairy lights. This way! Simon crouched down and did his best to avoid knocking into things. After the narrow corridor, he entered into a huge open area with buildings laid out in neat lines. It was an underground Bomble village. Hundreds of the magenta Bombles with their white bellies and gigantic ears were going about their business. There were children playing, families, and also elderly Bombles walking along. Simon sat down in the park while Dimitri disappeared to get some food. A small crowd gathered around Simon. Some of the children waved and others just stared. Simon felt a bit self-conscious. He didn't like being the center of attention with strangers. Slowly the crowd went away, but a few stayed on with Dimitri and began asking questions. Simon stayed there for what seemed like hours, eating and talking with the Bombles. It's now time for us to go to sleep, and for you to wake up, Dimitri said. It should be safe up above now. I will show you the way. Simon followed Dimitri back up to the surface. It was slowly getting lighter. Thank you, Dimitri, Simon said, putting his hand up to wave. But how do I get back? That is something I do not know, Dimitri replied, turning to go back to the safety of underneath the trees. Will I ever see you again? Simon asked. The world is a strange place, so you never know, Dimitri replied. Take care, he said before turning and disappearing through a tree trunk. Simon started walking, not sure what he was supposed to do now. As he walked, he felt himself drifting away, and then there was darkness once again.